Monarchy. A monarchy is a form of government in which a monarch, usually a king or queen, rules the country. The position is normally passed down within the same family from one generation to the next, often going to the eldest child. Countries that operate under some form of monarchy include the United Kingdom, Japan, Spain, Sweden, and Saudi Arabia. There are different types of monarchies. In a symbolic monarchy, the monarch has little or no political or economic authority, as is the case in the United Kingdom. Instead, the country is governed by a parliamentary system led by a prime minister. An absolute monarchy works very differently because the king or queen has the authority to make the major decisions for the country. One major weakness of monarchy is that a person can become the ruler simply because they were born into the royal family. This can result in an unsuitable leader taking power, while democratic control may be limited, and the ruler may have opportunities to abuse that power. Socialism. Socialism is a system in which workers, or laborers, can own property, while the distribution of goods and services is managed by a central government. The main goal is to distribute resources more equally so that people have similar opportunities. Some commonly cited examples of socialist states include the People's Republic of China and the Republic of Cuba. Although many socialist countries officially describe themselves as republics, they generally follow socialist principles in which labor and property are distributed more equally, and social classes or hierarchies are reduced. One criticism of socialism is that it can reduce people's motivation to work harder. If someone receives the same resources as another person who worked much harder, there may be little reason to put in extra effort. This can hurt the country's economy, especially when people no longer see a clear reward for working harder or producing more. Democracy. Democracy is a form of government in which the citizens are considered the highest political authority in the country. The idea of democracy is very old and can be traced back to the political and philosophical traditions of ancient Athens. In a democracy, citizens choose their leaders and help determine the laws through voting, usually based on majority rule. Democracy also creates a system in which basic human rights are protected and people have the freedom to make their own choices. Norway, Sweden, and New Zealand are among the countries often recognized as highly democratic. However, democracy can also face problems with political stability, because elections can regularly bring changes in leadership and government. Autocracy. An autocracy is a system in which one person or one ruling party has the highest authority over an entire country. The decisions made by the ruler are not meaningfully restricted by outside institutions, and those decisions are expected to be obeyed throughout the country. The autocratic ruler can also exercise extensive control over the civil liberties of the population. Unlike a democracy, ordinary citizens have little or no influence over the country's political decisions. Autocratic systems have existed for thousands of years and were often seen in absolute monarchies where the king's word was treated as law. The Soviet Union under Joseph Stalin is one of the more recent examples of an autocratic system. The biggest danger of autocracy is that the ruler can misuse their authority and eventually become a dictator. Federal. A federal government divides political authority between a central government and the different regions or states that make up the country. The central government remains responsible for the nation as a whole, but individual states or regions are given authority over many of their own internal matters. These states can have their own leaders and laws, although they are still part of the same country and are not independent nations. One reason federal systems divide authority is to make government more efficient. This approach is especially useful in large countries because smaller regions can manage many local issues more easily than a single central government trying to control everything. It is similar to a sports team where the head coach gives different responsibilities to assistant coaches. The assistants have control over their own areas but still work under the head coach. The United States is one of the best-known examples of a federal government. It has a national government led by a president, while individual states have their own governments, lawmakers, and senators who represent their regions and citizens. One major disadvantage of federalism is that economic differences can develop between regions because some states or territories have access to resources that others do not. Oligarchy. The word oligarchy means rule of the few. It describes a system in which a small group of powerful people controls the government and the country. These oligarchs may come from wealthy families, political groups, or military organizations, and they often gain influence through money or military power. Major political, social, and economic decisions are made by this small group. Unlike a monarchy, An oligarchy does not officially require leadership to be passed from parent to child. However, powerful families or groups can remain influential for several generations if they continue to control wealth, business, or military power. The United States is officially a federal government, but some people describe it as having oligarchic features, because large corporations and wealthy interests can have significant influence over politicians and government decisions. Modern oligarchies can develop when major businesses and wealthy individuals gain too much political influence. One of the biggest problems with oligarchy is the possibility of large economic and social differences between classes, because government decisions may mainly benefit the wealthy and powerful. Republic. The idea of a republic has roots in the teachings of the ancient Greek philosopher Plato and has influenced many modern systems of government. In a republic, the state is considered to belong to the people, and citizens have the right to take part in decisions concerning the country. Government leaders are chosen through the will of the people and are expected to represent the interests of the population. The leaders are supposed to make decisions that benefit the people they represent. A republic and a democracy are not exactly the same thing. In a republic, the state belongs to the people and citizens choose representatives to govern on their behalf. In a pure democracy, the people themselves are the sovereign political authority. A country can be both a republic and a democracy at the same time. The Philippines is one example. However, not every democracy is a republic. Canada is a democracy, but it is constitutionally a monarchy. Republics also have weaknesses because some countries may not be well suited to this system, especially when corruption and abuse of authority are common among political leaders. Communist. A communist government aims to create a classless society by placing the country's resources under state control. The ruling Communist Party generally controls the country's political, social, and economic decisions, and it is often led by an authoritarian leader. Communist states are based on the ideas of Karl Marx, who argued that capitalism would eventually destroy itself. The goal of communism is therefore to remove private ownership of property and create a system in which goods and services are shared among the population. In the modern world, 5 countries are commonly described as communist states: China, Cuba, Laos, North Korea, and Vietnam. One of the main criticisms of communism is that the concentration of political and economic power in the state can lead to government abuse and restrictions on human rights. Anarchism. Anarchism is often described as a system without a central government because its main idea is the removal of centralized political authority. Instead of simply moving government power to smaller groups, anarchism seeks to eliminate government itself and allow people to govern their own communities. Many people assume that an anarchist society would automatically become chaotic, but anarchist ideas generally focus on voluntary cooperation, where people freely choose to help each other and work together for their communities. Anarchism differs from socialism and communism because it does not require an equal distribution of labor and resources. Instead, it focuses on giving people an equal right to govern themselves. In many historical situations, periods of anarchy have appeared after an existing government was destroyed and before another government was established. There is no true anarchist government in the world today, although Somalia experienced a period without a national government before 2006. One major problem with anarchism is that it can result in disorder if people focus only on their own interests instead of cooperating with others. Presidential. In a presidential system, the different branches of government have separate responsibilities. The executive branch is separate from the legislature, and the president serves as the head of the executive branch. The president is responsible for carrying out and enforcing the laws, while the legislature is responsible for creating and passing laws. Presidential systems can exist within republics and democracies, and many democratic republics use this structure. South Korea, the Philippines, Nigeria, and Indonesia are examples of countries with presidential governments. One major weakness of a presidential system is that giving a large amount of executive authority to one person can create opportunities for that power to be abused. Parliamentary. In a parliamentary system, the political party with the most representation in the legislature usually forms the government. Its leader becomes the prime minister or chancellor and selects members of the party to serve in the cabinet and carry out executive responsibilities. However, the governing party does not have unlimited authority because opposition parties can challenge its decisions and policies. The prime minister can also be removed from office through a vote of no confidence if they fail to perform their duties or lose the support of the legislature. Parliamentary government can also exist alongside other systems, including monarchy. Japan, for example, is a constitutional monarchy in which the royal family has a symbolic role, while the actual government operates through a parliamentary system led by a prime minister. One possible weakness of parliamentary government is political instability, because opposition parties can constantly challenge the ruling party, which can lead to repeated political disputes and changes in government. Constitutional. A constitutional government is a system in which a constitution provides the basic framework for the country's laws and government. The constitution defines what the government can and cannot do, and establishes the responsibilities of its different institutions. In many cases, constitutions are created to reflect the will and rights of the people. Constitutional governments can take several different forms. The United Kingdom, for example, is a constitutional monarchy in which rules and laws limit the powers of the monarch. The United States is also governed by a constitution, while using a presidential democratic system. One weakness of constitutional government is that laws and government actions must remain consistent with the constitution. If lawmakers want to introduce an important law that conflicts with the Constitution itself may have to be amended before that law can take effect. Totalitarian. The term totalitarian was first coined by Benito Mussolini, who ruled fascist Italy from the 1920s through the 1940s. A totalitarian government seeks to control nearly every part of life within the country. Its control is not limited to politics and the economy. It can also extend to the beliefs, values, and behavior of ordinary citizens. In theory, people living under a totalitarian regime have very limited freedom because the state expects complete obedience. The basic idea is that every part of society should remain under state control and that no individual or group should act against the state. North Korea is one of the best-known modern examples of a totalitarian regime. It operates as a totalitarian republic and has been ruled by the Kim family for 3 generations. Like socialist, autocratic, and communist systems, totalitarian governments can lead to serious restrictions on human rights and widespread government abuse.